Without the mass incarceration that we currently practice, millions fewer people would be living in poverty. And it's not just families trying to stay afloat with one parent behind bars. Of the 600,000 prisoners who re-enter society each year, roughly 60% face long-term unemployment. And for all this, taxpayers are paying about $80 billion a year to keep so many people in prison.
All right, joining us now on the Malzberg panel for the first time, Jane Velez-Mitchell, founder of JaneUnchained.com, author of the New York Times bestseller Exposed: The Secret Life of Jodi Arias. And also Larry Elder, who now, Larry, I see your head did not get bigger than normal now that you have the actual star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Of course, author of Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours, and it's Larry Elder. We have a picture. I want to show the picture of everybody. There it is. There, look at that. Yay. That is great, Larry. Really, seriously, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats,
thank you very
Larry.
much.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. And Jane, Hillary's remarks today. I'm not sure what she's proposing as opposed to keeping criminals in jail when she talks about mass incarceration and how we're paying for it and how it's robbing people of a parent in the household. What is her alternative?
Well, she's talking about the prison industrial complex, Steve, and it does exist. We have more prisons and jails than we do colleges. We have more people incarcerated in this country than any other country in the world. In fact, we have greater populations behind bars than we do entire populations of countries in Eastern Europe. And what do we get for it all? More crime. What if we took all that money and put it into education, go to these pockets of poverty and crime, and absolutely transform those communities instead of putting generation after generation behind bars?
Larry, we have spilled $22 trillion in anti-poverty programs since the 60s. Billions and billions and billions down the black hole of so-called education. And crime is down since the 90s, since we started locking up people. And if you have people committing crimes, you got to lock them up.
Yeah, it sounds kind of commonsensical, but that's exactly the deal. Jane Velez-Mitchell, I don't know where she lives, but
you could ask her. You could ask her.
I live in Hell's Kitchen, okay?
I would recommend that maybe we use your community as a pilot program to release all these prisoners and find out whether or not they're going to be able to find jobs and become productive members of our society.
Look, I'm not saying release everybody en masse. What I'm saying is we need a total structural shift in our country. Our system is broken, and it can't be this political game where it's, Democrats versus Republicans.
What does it mean?
If someone commits a crime, what should we do?
I think we should focus on the pockets of crime. Most crime generates from a very small handful of communities that are riddled with poverty and lawlessness. And yes, there are problems with welfare. I also agree that we have to completely revamp the welfare system. So it's not just doing one or the other, it's doing both. It's completely changing our system. Our country is broken in this arena.
Jane, I agree with you that we need to change our system, but I think we need to change it in ways that you wouldn't agree with. The #1 problem in this country are kids growing up without fathers. And the reason we have that is because we have a welfare state that allows women to marry the government and men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. That's the problem.
Larry and Jane, that mother who is now famous for beating up and slapping around her kid in Baltimore, 6 kids, no job, no father in the house. Maybe there are several fathers for those 6 kids. We don't know. And she says she just moved into a new house. First of all, I don't know how that's possible, but that's the state of affairs. And that's a city that's been Democrat-controlled forever.
Well, you know what?
We'll pick it up, and we'll pick it up when we come back. I want the shocker from Jane Velez-Mitchell. When we come back, more on the Malzberg panel. Don't go away. All right, we're back with the Malzberg panel. Jane Velez-Mitchell in her book, The Secret Life of Jodi Arias, and Larry Elder, his book, Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 lives, 8 hours. We were teased by Jane Velez-Mitchell, and I mean that in a very clean way, before the break. You had a very big shocker for us.
The shocker is I agree with Larry Elder.
Uh-oh.
The welfare system
my goodness.
does
Hell
have
just
to be
froze over.
completely overhauled. We have to stop encouraging women from having children they cannot afford to raise properly. Family planning is one of the most important issues in this country. But the big problem is that we are creating kids who have no opportunity to be productive members of society. They are functionally illiterate when they get out of high school. And in this world, we are increasingly in a world where you either have a menial job, become a criminal, or you have the education to have a high-tech job.
Then I guess you're in favor of school choice.
Well, you're saying charter schools are going to resolve
Vouchers,
it?
school
Vouchers.
choice, competition in education, as opposed to just one place to go.
I'm not against that.
Okay,
I'm not against
well,
that.
the Democrats are, and Hillary is, and they all are.
Well, let me say this, that the public education system used to be the great equalizer. Everybody walked out of public school equally educated, and that's not true anymore.
All right, let me move on to the Clinton Foundation now. We got more reports every day. Now we have, they reportedly failed to disclose the identities of 1,100 donors and what's being called the out-of-control family affair. Apparently, according to new reports today, about 10% of all the billions they take in, 10% of a couple of $1 billion actually goes to charity, Larry.
Steve, several years ago, I volunteered full-time for 3 months for United Way. One of the things they bragged about is when you give the United Way $1, about 85 or 90 cents of that dollar gets down to the intended beneficiary. In this case, you give $1 to the Clinton Foundation, 10 cents gets down to the intended beneficiary. Not good.
And Jane?
Look, Bill Clinton did what conservatives urge. Don't rely on government to solve problems. Go and do some private charity work. And so when he left the presidency, he had all these connections. He knew world leaders, famous people, people with money, and that's what he went out and did. He used his charisma and his popularity to raise a lot of money for charity. And the Clinton Foundation says it has helped 400 million people in more than 200 countries. Now, I personally don't have proof of that, but nor do I have proof that any of these other people marching for cures at Central Park.
But if you have proof that only 10% of the money went to charity and the rest was planes and salaries and other expenses, then that doesn't look too good, does it?
Well, it wasn't. If you read the article carefully, it says that 15% was used for travel and expenses, and these people need security. I mean, what bigger targets than Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea? They need to have security that costs money.
All right, let's move on. I want you to hear what Samuel Alito had to say to an attorney who was defending the right to marry, gay marriage, in the oral hearings yesterday, oral arguments at the U.S. Supreme Court. Listen.
These are 4 people, 2 men and 2 women. It's not the sort of polygamous relationship, polygamous marriages that existed in other societies and still exist in some societies today. And let's say they're all consenting adults, highly educated. They're all lawyers. What would be the ground under the logic of the decision you would like us to hand down in this case? What would be the logic of denying them the same right?
And so he's saying, why can't 4 people then get married if we rule in favor of you? And she said basically, and I'm being simplistic here, but this is what she said, well, that's not the norm now. Duh. And, well, who would decide on child, if someone had to go to the doctor, who would make that decision for the child? Which parent? Jane, pathetic arguments, and I think Alito has a great point.
I think that it was a pathetic response, but the best response is you could make the same argument about heterosexual marriage. Oh, you got a man and a woman who want to get married. What's to stop 2 men and 2 women from getting married? It's a dumb argument in the first place.
No, Larry, I'd say the difference is because we have a traditional definition, an accepted definition of marriage. 1 man, 1 woman. If you change that and open it up, then all bets are off.
That's right. I've never heard a good answer to Alito's question. If we do away with traditional marriage, where are the lines to be drawn? And the answer that the lawyer gave was a poor one, because there isn't a real good answer for that. Why can't 4 people get married or 6 people get married if you do away with the traditional model? All bets, as you pointed out, Steve, are off.
You know, this is the same kind of argument that was used against interracial marriage. This is, Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Isn't that what
You
conservatives
mean if we
are all
allow
about?
blacks and whites to get married, then we'd have to allow blacks and Asians to get married?
Or-
I don't see the analogy of the
Or
argument.
2 blacks and 2 whites.
Nobody said that because that was never an argument back then, and it's not an argument today.
Look, what's the big deal? Look at DOMA, okay? Look
But
at
you're
don't ask,
changing the
don't,
topic.
Don't ask,
Answer
don't tell.
Alito's question.
Don't ask, don't tell, ended. What happened? People predicted hundreds of thousands of troops were going to march off. Nothing happened. Nobody cares. The florists get a little bit more business. That's the
Jane,
only thing that's going to change.
So Jane, your answer is if we allow other people to get married, society won't change all that often, so let's do it? Is that your response?
It's, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If 2 people who love each other want to get married.
Or 3, or
what do
4,
you
or
care?
5, or 6, or 7, or 10. All right, guys, we have to end it there. Jane Velez-Mitchell, great to have you. Please come back often. And Larry Elder, you too, congratulations again. Bernie Kerik is next.